Welcome to Financial Insider Weekly. I'm your host, Michael Gray, CPA. My guest today is Scott Hazlett, who is a California attorney, and he's also a CPA. He practices in the areas of taxation, real estate planning, financial problem resolutions, and 1031 exchanges. He's a certified specialist in taxation law by the California State Bar Board of Legal Specialization. He's also a qualified intermediary for tax-deferred exchanges. Scott previously worked with Pricewaterhouse and was an investment executive with Merrill Lynch. He graduated from Taft University School of Law in 1996 and set up his own law firm. Currently, he's the president of the East Bay chapter of the California Society of CPAs. And in a past life, he was a sports writer covering Major League Baseball, National Football League, and other sports. So thanks for joining me today, Scott.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It's a real pleasure. So one of the areas that Scott is a real estate-oriented attorney and CPA has been dealing with is the area of short sales and foreclosures. So I'm calling this the short sale and foreclosure wars because that's the way that it feels to an awful lot of the people who are going through this out there, and also to we who are trying to help those people. So to get started, Scott, how did borrowers get into this mess?
Well, I'll tell you, in the last 2+ years since we've had the sort of the meltdown, which probably started in late 2007 and early 2008, I've consulted with over 250 individuals and families in my office, and the meeting will be typically 30 to 90 minutes. They'll come in, they'll basically lay all their cards out on the table, and they'll tell me what they think and what they want to do and what they know and what their fears are and what their aspirations and so forth. And I always tell them the objective of the meeting is, number one, there's no silver bullets. Number two, the goal is to just basically take what they are trying to do and create a framework for a strategy, which sometimes is do nothing, sometimes is do something, but basically give them a plan and peace of mind. Because people come in with an unknown, they come in having read the internet, and of course we know the internet's always true, right?
Right.
And so forth. So question is, how did we get into this mess? Well, easy money. Wall Street wanted to make easy money, so we had no doc loans. You could get a loan with stated income. You could get a loan with writing no income on your application. There was even a loan that was later called a ninja loan, which is no income, no asset, no job. And,
crazy, wasn't it?
And so people were getting getting tremendous amounts of financing, refinancing. Taking cash out, using their house as a piggy bank or an ATM, buying vehicles, taking trips, living beyond their means. And then when the values stopped rising, of course, and with an inability to pay, borrowers just, they've got no choice. They've got to pay the piper. They've got to face the music.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when we're talking about short sales and foreclosures, real estate salespeople often promote short sales as the best alternative when the borrower is underwater, where they owe more than their home is worth. Is that true?
Well, let's take a step back and really understand what's going on here. You're talking about a homeowner, an individual or a married couple, own a property. Let's say the property is worth $300 and the loan is $500.
Okay.
There's a job loss, or in fact, sometimes the loan adjusts. The payment was $900 a month, and now it's $5,000 a month because there was an adjustment. They didn't quite understand what they were getting into, but they're unable to pay, is what it really comes down to. So they really have 2 or 3 different choices. One is they can keep paying. A lot of times they can't because they don't have the ability. Sometimes they can get a note modification. The lender will agree to change the payment or reduce the payment. That doesn't happen very often at all. A lot of frustration there. And the last 2 options really are a short sale or a foreclosure. A foreclosure in California for most residential situations occurs when borrower stops paying and eventually the lender files a notice in the public records and they pursue what's called a non-judicial foreclosure, which means basically they're setting the property up for an auction 3 or 4 months down the line. The principal alternative to that is for the borrower to sell the property in what's called a short pay or short sale situation. So let's say again the property's worth $300, the loan is $500. If they sell the property, ordinarily in the good old days when property values are up, you sell the property, there's enough to pay off the loan, you take some equity home with you and so forth.
Right.
In this case, the proceeds are not enough, and so we have to get the lender to agree to take less than the full amount owed.
Right.
Now, the real estate agent will tell you that a short sale is superior to foreclosure, primarily because on a credit rating point of view, going forward for future, a foreclosure dings your credit to a large extent. Mm-hmm. But a short sale also dings your credit to a large extent. Both are, mm-hmm. and actually some research has shown that in the credit scoring models that everybody seems to be so excited about, the short sale, which is basically a compromise of the loan amount, didn't pay in full, is actually not as bad, but nearly as bad as foreclosure. So the question is, why does a real estate agent say, oh, short sale is better than a foreclosure? Very simple, that it's a sale and there's a commission.
Right.
So you have to be very careful when you listen to the real estate agent. Do they have the commission at heart, or do they have the client's best interest at heart?
Right.
So
yeah,
that's sort of that's in my view and in my experience, it's become quite clear that a short sale is not always the best alternative, and oftentimes is not the best alternative. Usually the foreclosure is a better alternative for reasons that we'll discuss.
Okay. So, but related to this, I mean, the real estate agents have been having a really tough time too, because not a lot of properties have been selling.
Correct.
And the ones that are selling are mostly short sales.
Right.
So,
and I have some real estate agent clients,
yeah.
or I have real estate agents that refer these types of people to me because they sort of want to cover their backside. And the idea is that clients really need to get independent advice, and they need to get independent tax and legal advice. So what I've seen is there's a crossover. There's a little bit of a tax component, there's a financial component, there's a legal component, and there's actually a social component.
Right.
People get very concerned.
We're talking about their home here.
They're talking about home, we're talking about pride,
yeah.
which usually factors in an adverse way. I've never missed a payment. I've always been good. I was faithful to the system, and now I'm getting sort of, I'm getting a bad raw deal from the system. The big world is hurting me, and I don't understand. I'm confused. So there's some hand-holding that goes involved as well.
Yeah. I don't remember which program it was, but anyway, it was one of the news programs last night. Of course, actually, they probably repeat the same story over and over again anyway, but it basically children complaining or talking about how their neighbors have disappeared, that they basically move out at night and they don't talk to the neighbors because they're so embarrassed.
Correct.
And so anyway, so there's a big emotional element in this thing.
But in the question is, would somebody be better off just walking away, which means there will ultimately be a foreclosure? In the California statutory scheme, actually in many cases that would be true, because if there is a foreclosure and it's handled in the most ordinary way, the non-judicial foreclosure, at the end of the foreclosure on a first loan against a property, let's say I own a house, I have one loan,
yes,
there is a foreclosure, it's a non-judicial foreclosure, and let's say the value is $300 and the loan is $500, there's a deficiency, but I do not have to pay it.
Right.
The foreclosure stops at forever. Whereas in a short sale situation, unwittingly, without proper legal advice or independent advice, it's possible that you go through that short sale and yet you revive or you sort of reaffirm this $200,000 deficiency unwittingly, and the only thing you really pick up is maybe a little bit better credit, but you still are on the hook for the $200,000 and they can reach other assets. So that's why it's very, very critical to get independent advice regarding these types of situations.